Good morning, my beautiful souls. My name is Nicole, and I am here to help you reconnect with the light that shines deep within you. Today, I'd like to talk about something that has been very personal to me and something which has been a big part of my healing and transformation journey, and that is the power of vulnerability. We live in a world where it feels like we cannot ever be vulnerable. We move through this world and we all have fears. To say that we don't have any fears would be a lie. I have had many fears in my life, many fears. And one of my biggest fears was losing my parents. And when that happened, I felt like my entire world was going to fall apart. I didn't know how to deal with all the emotions that I was feeling. I didn't know how to let people in. I didn't know how to allow people to be there for me. And the thing is, we live in this world where we feel like we're always alone, that we alone are going through the things that we are feeling. But once you start to talk about the things that you are feeling, and once you start to reach out to the people around you and let them know how you're actually feeling and what is going on with you, you'll be surprised to see how many other people are going through some of the same things. And whilst the circumstances around why they feel the way they do may not be the same, at the end of the day, pain is pain, anger is anger, hurt is hurt. And what causes all of these emotions and these pains and these angers and these hurts isn't really what's important here. It's the fact that we all share the same emotions, that we all go through life feeling things that we shouldn't have to feel, but because we're not taught how to deal with them, we end up having to learn how to deal with these emotions ourselves, and we end up learning how to deal with them in a somewhat unhealthy manner. So, what is being vulnerable? Being vulnerable simply means telling other people what's actually going on with you. Take an example. For, let's say, you find yourself in a situation with somebody having a conversation and they say something which triggers anger inside of you. And the thing is, you might necessarily not know why the anger is coming, but it could be that this person has said something, and it might be that you're overreacting to the anger, not so much because you're angry at what that person has said, but because that anger has triggered something inside of you that has made you feel angry. What happens is, we've all had childhood trauma. We've all had experiences where we didn't know how to learn we didn't learn how to process our emotions. We've all been through situations in which our parents probably said things to us and we couldn't quite understand what it was that it meant. And so in our young childhood brains, we started to think that it meant something different than what it meant. For example, think about a moment when you were a child and your parents said, "Don't do that, that's bad. You're a bad boy or you're a bad girl." What happens is, what parents should be saying in that situation is, your behavior is bad. Because once parents say these things, in our small toddler brains, we can't quite understand what it is. And because once we come into this world feeling like we are the epicenter of the world, and we can't quite understand when things don't go our way. And this is how we then start to throw tantrums, because when we don't get the things that we want, we don't know how to act about it, and we then get triggered with negative emotions. So what does vulnerability have to do with all of this? Well, vulnerability has to do with the fact that if we were a bit more honest with each other about the things that we are actually going through, then people would probably be a bit more understanding as to why we have the reactions that we do. What I mean by this is that we cannot fully understand what people are going through until we understand the circumstances that they have been through. No human being is inherently bad. It is the circumstances that surround our childhood experiences. It is the circumstances that surround the way in which we were brought up that has an impact on the people that we become as adults. The foundation of who we are as adults is purely based on what happened during our childhood years. So it's important to share our stories. We somehow have a feeling that it's not okay to feel the things that we feel, and it's not okay to think about the fact that we might have been hurt. And simply it means that everybody has been hurt in this life To say that somebody has been through life without any kind of trauma or any kind of pain is impossible to say. Everybody has experienced moments in which they felt that they were being rejected, or they felt that they were not good enough. And this is where the problem lies, is we all move through this world thinking that we are not good enough, thinking that the only way that we can feel good enough is when other people give us that external validation. But the key is to understanding that only ourselves can make ourselves feel like we are enough. And this is where self-love and self-care come into the matter. But what, again, coming back to why I'm talking about vulnerability here, is because if I find myself in a situation in which somebody says something and I find myself getting angry, and realistically I shouldn't have any reason to be angry at what that person is saying, because the only reason why I am actually getting angry is because this person is saying something triggering that will trigger something, an emotion that already lives inside of me that I have not fully processed, then I will end up overreacting. And this is when our emotions start to get the better of us and they start to control us rather than us using our emotions in a way that help us move through life. So vulnerability is simply about, if you are feeling a certain emotion, share why you're feeling that emotion, share your feelings. We tend to spend more time thinking about the things that we think rather than focusing on the things that we feel. It somehow, and this comes back to childhood, when we were children, every time we tried to express our emotions, we were probably told to be quiet. Think about it this way, children express themselves through crying. And if when we were crying and trying to express ourselves to our parents or any other person around us, and they told us, shush, shush, be quiet, children should be heard, should be seen, not heard, then we end up developing these belief systems that tell us that we cannot express ourselves, that nobody actually cares about the things that we are feeling. But until we learn to actually express the things that we are feeling, we always end up being forced to be in a situation that we don't necessarily choose to be in. So being vulnerable means sharing what is going on inside of you. The next time you find yourself overreacting, maybe tell that person, I'm sorry, I'm going through some personal issues. I didn't mean to get angry. And you never know, that other person might say, hey, do you want to talk about it? But the thing is, unless we give people the opportunity to help us, we keep on moving through this world thinking that people cannot help us, that people are always against us rather than here to help us. And one thing I noticed was, through the difficulties that I experienced through my own childhood, I was incapable of expressing my emotions. I was incapable of telling people how I truly felt on the inside. I was so closed off that I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know how to genuinely connect with another human being, because I felt I had told myself the story that I need to be strong, that I need to always have my back, and that I cannot ever show signs of weakness, because if I were to cry or ask people for help, then that would mean that I am weak. But the things is, the stories that we tell ourselves in our head are not really what is going on in real life. These are just the stories we tell ourselves as a coping mechanism to help us move through whatever it is that we are dealing with. So don't be scared to tell people how you feel, whether it's in a friendship, whether it's in relationships with a partner, whether it's between family members. What people don't understand is, if we don't know what other people are going through, then we don't know how to behave around them. And the thing is, if you know that somebody is in pain and if someone is in hurt, you're going to make sure that you do things to make them feel better. You're going to be more understanding. You're going to have more compassion towards whatever it is that they're feeling. Because think about it this way, how would you want somebody to treat you if you were in that situation? If you were experiencing something that was truly, truly negative and horrible and hard for you to deal with, how would you want other people to treat you? And the thing is, you know how you want people to treat you, but until people know what you're going through, they cannot adjust the circumstances around which you are interacting with one another. People cannot know. If we do not open our hearts to let people know what we are going through and what we are feeling, we will never be able to move through life. We will never truly be able to understand who we are. And it is with the interactions that we have with other human beings that we are able to understand who we are. It is by seeing what other people do and how other people interact with one another that we can see how we are, or the parts of us that maybe we need to improve, or the parts of us that we need to show other people that they can also embody. At the end of the day, we are all interconnected, and it is impossible for us to go through this world alone. It is impossible. Think about every single situation in which you were feeling down, or you were feeling low, or you were feeling any kind of negative emotion. Think about how you felt once you spoke to a friend, or a loved one, or a parent, or someone in your entourage who was able to give you some advice, and who was able to say, "It's going to be okay. I'm here for you. Let me know if there's anything that I can do to help you through the situation." And I can tell you that when you ask people for help, the power, the power that comes from that is like something I had never imagined. When I was dealing with the grief of my parents' death, it took a while before I was able to truly open up and let people know that I was dying on the inside, that I felt like my heart was breaking from every single angle. I felt like I was never going to be able to move through life again. And it isn't until I started to let people know, I am not doing okay. I need help. I need people to just be around me. I need people to comfort me. I need a hug, or whatever it may be. And once I was able to open up, friends started showing up in ways that I had never known. Friends started reaching out and saying, "Hey, can I come over and we'll just hang out? Hey, I've cooked you some food. Hey, let's go on an adventure." Something to get our minds off of it. And it isn't until we can truly open up to other people and tell them, "This is how I'm feeling. This is why I'm behaving in a way that is probably out of the norm from the way I normally am." If people don't understand why you are being triggered, they cannot understand. And think about it this way. Nobody probably in all of human history has ever gotten what they wanted by being rude. Think about it this way. When we are kind to people, they will go out of their way to be kind to us. So when you show compassion to other people when they're going through difficulty, your interactions will begin to improve. It's all about learning to have compassion. Once we are vulnerable, the thing is, we also need to make it easy for other people to be vulnerable to us. And the thing is, it's all about reflecting other people's behavior. So once you start being more vulnerable with your friends, you'll start to see that your friends will start being more vulnerable with you and your family and your colleagues and whoever it may be, and you will start to see how your connections and your relationships improve. It is so important for us to learn to share how we are truly feeling, because if we don't, we will continue moving through this world with the story in our head that keeps on telling us, "I am alone. Nobody cares about me. Nobody cares about me. I am alone." And what happens is, once we start repeating this story in our head, we start to believe it. And we start to truly think that there is no one who can understand us. We start to believe that there is no one who can understand what we are going through. But at the end of the day, if you focus on the emotions rather than the circumstance that created that emotion, every single human being has the same emotions and has the capacity to feel what you are feeling. And it isn't until we share this that they can fully understand why we may be behaving the way we are. Share your story. Sharing our stories and the things that we have been through doesn't mean that we are weak. It doesn't mean that we are trying to get people to feel sorry for us. This is something that I used to believe deeply, that if I told people, "Oh, these are the experiences that I've gone through," I would think that people would think that I was complaining. And if you choose to dwell on it and talk about it incessantly, non-stop, then yes, you are dwelling on it. But sometimes to move through our emotions, we need to process them. And processing them becomes a lot easier when we actually say them out loud and we tell other people about the things that we are feeling. It has been a long journey for me, overcoming grief, and it's something that I still battle with every day. But now that I know that there are people around me who care for me because I was able to open up and say, "Hey guys, I am not okay." People have shown me what friendship is, what true friendship is. People have shown me the amount of love that another human being can have for someone who's not even necessarily related to you. And this made me realize that as long as you are able to connect with another person, nothing matters. Because as long as you know that there is somebody to love you and support you at the end of the day when you are not feeling good, everything will be okay. There will always be people there to help you stand back up. But the only way that you can experience this is if you open your heart and you tell people, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I'm going through, this is what I need in order to move through this. Reach out to people and start to see the power of how you sharing your vulnerabilities will help you to improve your relationships and connect on such deeper levels with everyone around you. Thank you for listening. I hope this message has brought you some kind of clarity, but I send you so much love and light, and thank you for all your support.